All right. So, welcome back. Looks like it's all right. All right. Hello, world again. Our next reader is Ingrid Wendt. Ingrid is the author of 5 books of poems, co-editor of 2 anthologies, and has been featured on the Writer's Almanac. She received honorable mention in both the 2025 River Heron Prize and the 2025 Tor House Prize. Recent poems appear in Poetry, Terrain, About Place, Willowa, Calyx, and Cutthroat. And her chapbook, Keeping It All Afloat, will appear in 2026. Here is Ingrid Wendt.
Okay. It's a fabulous poetry morning.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being here. It's just such a treat to be here and to read with Juan, and I really appreciated your poems, and I could understand some of them in Spanish. And I wanted to respond also to what you were saying about poetry saves us. And that reminds me of something that some of you may have heard before, but I hope you don't mind hearing it again. And I'm really not name dropping here, it's just tremendous good fortune, and it shows how old I am, that when I was in graduate school, I was fortunate enough to meet and interview W.H. Auden when he came to Eugene. My boyfriend was working for the Eugene Register Guard, and he was covering the business beat, but they gave him Auden, and he didn't know anything about Auden, so he asked me along. And the one thing that really stuck with me, I asked him, because what are the readers of the Register Guard interested in? I didn't realize they could have been sophisticated. I was such a snob. I was 22 and such a snob. But anyway, I asked him, Mr. Auden, why do you write poetry? And he said, to help people enjoy life more, or to endure it better. And I thought, yes. And I love literary criticism, I love playing with words and stuff, but that stuck, that really stuck. And it turns out that I judge other poems that I've come across, not the poets necessarily, but yeah, does it matter? Who needs it? Do we need this? Yes. But there are some poems that I don't need. I feel very free to just let them go. So that was a gift. And so I also feel free in these times, these wretched times around us. I feel free to find moments and to share moments of joy. I came across something by the poet and writer Ross Gay. If you haven't found him, look for him. And what he says is, what if joy, instead of refuge or relief from heartbreak, is what effloresces from us as we help each other carry our heartbreaks? So I'm going to read a poem that maybe some of you have heard. I had such fun writing it. And it's about some amazing birds and their antics. And I'm trying to capture the voice of the friend who told me this story. Her husband was in memory care. Once a week they took a walk along the Willamette River. Their son was visiting, and so they walked along the Willamette River, and then they saw this amazing spectacle, and she was so excited, so I tried to capture that, if not her exact words. What they saw on their weekly river walk, taking turns pushing his chair. First to snare their attention was Hawk, hovering, fluttering, just over water's smooth skin. I've got to interrupt myself because I'm capitalizing hawk, I'm capitalizing water, I'm capitalizing osprey, when osprey comes in here. First to snare their attention was Hawk, hovering, fluttering, just over water's smooth skin. And then the distraction. Mallard from nearby delta ponds, for some unknown reason, quacking close at their heels, so that when at last they turned back to the river, hawk was now high in the air, darting around, as hawks are not wont to do. And why? Just ahead of hawk sped nimble osprey, breakdancing solo, with big fish in its beak. Holy cow! Hawk with its speed behind osprey's agility. Dodging, circling, 5 minutes or more it must have been, and then out of proverbial nowhere, bald eagle sails in behind hawk in hot pursuit of agile osprey with big fish in its beak. And just when it can't get any stranger, lo and behold, crow flaps to catch up with eagle, sailing after hawk in hot pursuit of osprey with big fish. A scene straight out of Aesop or Native American myth. Who the foolish one? Who the wise? And then fish fell. Who knows where? And there was no more story to tell. How brief that whole unpredictable sequence that plays and replays in the mind, in the sharing. How long it kept them going, my friends, flown by wonder, far from the body's ruthless, steady decline. And later, yes, later, even then. It's so wonderful to see all of you here, and thank you for coming, and thank you, Mark, for setting this up. It's a pleasure to be here, and to know that together we are surviving these times, and we are seeking beauty, and we are in the comfort of each other, and we can share joy and delight. And I think it's okay to sometimes mourn together also. I'm going to be reading a couple of poems that are more serious. This one is kind of serious too, but it asks a question, and it's a narrative poem again, but not quite like that. This one does address the times we are in, but it was the first Trump presidency when this poem came about. And the questions I ask in it are still, I think, relevant today. Can you hear me okay? Okay. The person that I'm speaking about in this poem is someone who was a teacher in a class I was taking, and she was also a Reiki practitioner, a healer. And all of us voted our hearts is the title. All of us voted our hearts, but only one of us out of our small, close class was on the side that elected him. Yours, the one heart, trusting that brash, vainglorious man with the world. All day it's been on my mind, driving alone along a seascape that once, years ago, brought me close to tears with its beauty. My mind now replaying yesterday's scene, the way you quietly listen to the rest of us get carried off course by waves of our own fear and dismay at how fast every single thing was falling apart. We couldn't stop trying to make sense of it all, none of us sensing the reach of our words until your eyes filled up. Your face turned red. Unexpected the way your words spewed fire. Facebook friends, you said, were unfriending you. Distant family hated you. Yes, I voted for him, you said. I'm hurting, you said. I'm hurting. And we were stunned. All day as I drive, I've been trying to make sense of it. You, teacher, healer, whose hands all her life have lightened the loads of others, who never would knowingly do anyone harm, who voted for someone whose orders in their sweeping blindness tried just last week to turn from our borders a 4-month-old child on her way to life-saving surgery in our country, a child whose family had trustingly trudged through all the legal steps. Remember that? We thought that was bad. That was bad. What now can I say to you who yesterday felt only your own self harmed, whose face turned red, whose tears about to flow stopped me in my tracks? How do I offer compassion and still hold firm? This I wonder as I drive in early afternoon, south along the coast toward home, glancing, disbelieving at the far horizon smoldering red, that long, narrow space that should be blue between the slate-gray sea and low, storm-filled clouds, red, as though a trillion barrels of oil had spilled and spread, and a distant fire burns unquenchable all along the whole western edge of our world. Okay, that's better. Thank you. And as I read that poem, I realized that, I've got a poem that I'm going to read 2 or 3 poems down that's also called Stopped in Their Tracks. So looks like I used that phrase twice. Whose face turned red, whose tears about to flow, stopped me in my tracks. Okay, I'm going to change the pace. This poem is titled Stopped in Their Tracks. And it's a totally different poem. And it's about my granddaughter when she was 2.5. Stopped in their tracks. 2.5, she's playing her first board game ever, Chutes and Ladders, has already mastered spinning the dial and taking turns. And when her mother chirps, "I have a 5," a plastic red-suited bunny, small as a bracelet's charm, hops into the lead up that winding red road. "Me too, a 5, her father exclaims. 6, grandfather springs ahead of them all. And then it's Gemma's turn. Such deep concentration in that index finger, the size of a violet's stem. And when the needle stops, "What is it, Mommy?" "A 1. Look, everybody, I have a 1, a 1, a 1. Another principle I've tried to live by and to incorporate into my writing is the concept that with protest must come affirmation. Very long time ago, you can tell how long ago it was by looking at me, I was with my late husband, Ralph Salisbury, working on an issue of the Northwest Review. He was editor, I was managing editor, and the issue was during the Vietnam War, and it was called the Protest and Affirmation issue. For every protest, there must also be affirmation, or protest and affirmation must walk hand in hand. And that comes from a concept implied by Denise Levertov in her book, Life at War. She has a quotation in there, "We are the humans who can make, whose language imagines loving kindness." So that's part of this poem. And this poem recognizes something very hard, and then it moves to a resolution of sorts. It comes from the location in the Yucatan Peninsula where my late husband, Ralph Salisbury, and I had a writing residency in 2012 and 2013. It was a 3-month residency in the Yucatan Peninsula in a village called Acumal. I don't know Oaxaca, but I do know Acumal pretty well. It's between Cancun and Tulum. Do you know it? Maybe? Yeah. Have you been to?
Well, I know where it is.
You know where it is, yeah. We spent 3 months there, and during that time came the news of the Sandy Hook school shooting, and I was paralyzed and found myself unable to enjoy where I was, and I just couldn't write, and so I decided to write about not being able to write. And then something broke through, and you'll hear that in the poem. And it's titled Prayer, and it appeared in Tikkun magazine a couple of years ago. I've lifted my face to the great night sky, that any wonder I used to feel is gone. And what are the songs of birds who once brought joy? Nothing but blind instinct, the staking of claims. Which parts of the jungle are theirs and theirs alone? Ways to find each other over earth's constant low hum, fierce wind in the palms. Yesterday starting like any other, waving goodbye, lunch buckets in hands, and the crack of the gun that does not stop, and the blood and the children who never. Water, great giver and taker, help me to remember how to cradle wonder and still bear witness to horror and grief, how to let protest and beauty share the same beats of the heart. All the way from the wet, level edge of the world, the long, long path of the rising moon shimmers and streams right to your feet and mine, no matter on which shore, which continent we stand. And I'm going to go right on into a poem of joy. And it's called Mystery Fish, Yalku Lagoon. It's a beautiful salt and freshwater inlet off of the Caribbean Sea that used to be very prolific. And because it's salt water, you can just hang there with a snorkel and just kind of hang on to something and just watch. Who wouldn't want to name it, this bright orange-finned wonder, no longer than my little finger, its cream-colored body tinged with yellow, and 2 conspicuous stripes from mouth to eye and mouth to gill, black, and the vividest neon turquoise ever a fish could wish for. Who wouldn't fall in love right there and want to know with whom? For no known reason beyond her own curiosity, closer and closer she ventures toward my alien face mask, checking me out. At last, so close, I could, were I impetuous, touch her. Oh, I could hang suspended all day and more, above her pale gold limestone shelf, so close to the water's surface it's warm in all kinds of weather, the perfect nursery. Or is this fish full grown? The closest I come in all of my fish books is maybe a juvenile schoolmaster snapper, which sounds so harsh and disapproving, I refuse to believe it. Nothing like this mild miracle who blazes gently, despite my klutzy chivalry. In all of her stunningly unconscious heraldry, out of the shadows and into my joy. Awakened too early, I consider the nature of beauty. I've watched it, I do this too. I Again this morning, the same tropical mockingbird, in between flitting from branch to branch, no leaves to be seen, pours out nonstop every tune its DNA-programmed brain can sing. Trills of warblers, trills of canaries, house finch tremolos, coloraturas of house wrens, and even birds who never ventured this far south. Heavenly solos that could be taken for glad tidings. Look, the sun, that could be brave refusals to echo my own despair of a world headed down the path of destruction. Bird who only yesterday chased away the larger, fatter, yellow-bellied kiskadee, claiming all these thousands of berries for its very own, though clearly no bird's stomach could have that much room. Cruel bird, whose California cousin I once watched peck to death a nest of newly hatched mourning doves, then skedaddle. How can a bird who sings with the voices of cherubim be so horrible? This I ponder, though I know better. Beauty and goodness are not always on the same team. Bless this bird, who has no notion of savagery. Bless each holy interlude of my forgetting. It's about time for me to close down. That push and pull, the beauty, and the harsh stuff, they're always there. And the title of my, is going well. The title is called Keeping It All Afloat. And it comes from something that Audre Lorde said. It's only by learning to balance our inconsistencies and our contradictions that we can keep it all afloat. So that's kind of within almost each poem of the book, that balance. And here's the title poem for the book, and it's a bit long, but then I'll be ready to sit down and hear Simmons. Keeping It All Afloat, and you'll hear the bird, the kiskadee, in here again. It was such a wonderful gift, that residency, just to sit and absorb and snorkel and watch birds. Keeping it all afloat. You ask what I'm doing so far from home, and what can I say? Most days I study a tree, and a big outlandish tree it is, offering big round berries in every stage of temptation. A hodgepodge of green, maroon, and black in each and every fist-sized clump, a pantry of non-stop avian glee. Why it pleases me so much I cannot say, but I love to peer. Sometimes, yes, uneasy in my privilege. A desk, a roof, and time. Down upon large glossy leaves and the one bare branch in the middle, which yesterday hosted the mating dance of the light brown Yucatan doves, and their coupling, the briefest of piggyback thwacks. What's more, delight compounded, the resident great kiskadee, who claims this whole entire tree as his own, left them alone, although on other days he loves to rest himself off and on that very branch when he isn't flitting deep into the deep green pyrotechnics of berries and leaves. Returning with a big black berry in his big black beak, gulping it down. Some days I'm even luckier, catch a glimpse of his yellow gold crown, a crescent sun flashing once and sinking back into its own horizon. So fast, the gesture is lost on his mate, flirting with berries elsewhere in this inexhaustible tropical tree, but not lost on me. Beguiled and trying to capture that high-speed magic with just one click, and failing over and over, and also suspending, forgive me, our struggles back home to keep this whole blessed planet intact. But theirs is a question that's also been nibbling on me, one that here in the Yucatan jungle, close to the sea, I've not been able to banish until, lo and behold, just this morning, a pair of jaw-dropping starburst recognitions rose and stunned me. Perhaps the most gluttonous soul in this whole spectacle is not Sir Kiskadee after all, but the person writing this poem who went to these extremes to get as far away as she could from constant news of hate that's everywhere and all-consuming, to fill the empty larder of her spirit with the crooning and blooming and fruiting which has kept our sacred world humming since life lifted into being. And someday soon, instead of relentless grief at what the world has become, her business will be back home, among you, to scout out every last high-speed antic and steadfast miracle still remaining throughout the vast landscapes around us, each with its own dear cast of characters, for whom the concept of future doesn't exist, and to celebrate every last morsel. Stay tuned. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ingrid. Wasn't that great? Did you bring books, Ingrid?
Yes, I have books at the back table.
Perfect.
I'm going to say they're all $10 each. They're on sale because I've been doing this with my reading, is I'm taking the sales of my books and donating them to a family in Gaza.
So we'll take a break, about 10 minutes, and go back there and buy some books from Ingrid, and then we'll come back for a summit.